their new home Frogmore Cottage like many had expected, but rather at a London hospital.
Even though Meghan had let it be known she wanted a home birth, it was probably very realistic that her first child at 37, it was going to be born in hospital.
Well, good evening from London. Welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Reviews for Harry and Meghan's big-budget Netflix series have so far been less than kind. Unimaginative and frustrating, said Hollywood's Bible Variety magazine.
It always starts the same way with Meghan Markle. Soft, subtle, like she's weaving a fairy tale in real life. A picture here, a glow there, a perfectly lit baby bump under golden light, and the internet melts like butter. Every photo looks intentional, every angle feels rehearsed. And before anyone even questions it, the whole world is supposed to smile, nod, and applaud the perfection. No one dares to blink twice or ask, wait, does this even add up? But this time, oh, the silence didn't stick. People started whispering, and then they started shouting. And leading that storm, you guessed it, Piers Morgan. When new evidence came out suggesting Meghan's pregnancy stories weren't just inconsistent, but maybe even scripted, Piers didn't just raise an eyebrow, he erupted. You could feel it, that studio energy, his sharp tone, his fingers hitting the desk. So, which part was real? He demands. Any of it?
In Westminster, focused on healthcare for women and children. Other royals have been born at Portland Hospital, including Harry's cousin.
The timing? Poetic. The Sussex PR engine had already been coughing and wheezing from one awkward Netflix flop to another half-hearted podcast attempt. And now this? This was gasoline on fire. Piers called it the mother of all contradictions. According to him, Meghan's stories about her pregnancy didn't just fail to match, they collided like rival timelines. He said her narrative was so twisted, even a Netflix screenwriter would get a migraine trying to make it consistent. Then came what Piers dubbed the bombshell. A pile of internal notes, mismatched dates, and bizarre inconsistencies that didn't crawl out of the dark, they exploded into daylight. He waved photos, circled dates, and swore it all proved one thing. Meghan Markle didn't just perform motherhood, she staged it. Lighting, camera angles, PR spin, it was all part of what he called her most convincing production yet.
What little was left of their relationship with the royal family, and what little was left, frankly, of their own reputation.
And of course, Piers being Piers, he made it cinematic. He pointed to one clip, then another, a photo where the bump looked high, another where it disappeared altogether. One day she's holding it gently, another day she's flat as a board. Now, anyone with sense knows posture, fabric, and light can play tricks, but Piers? Oh no, he doesn't do moderation, he does drama. This wasn't maternity, he growled on air. This was marketing. He claimed the entire pregnancy timeline didn't sync with private schedules, that the secrecy wasn't about privacy, it was about control. He argued that every inconsistency was intentional, a carefully woven story of suffering, designed to make the world feel sorry for her. And that's when he dropped the twist. Apparently, someone close to the Sussexes had finally had enough. A so-called insider, tired of the lies, supposedly leaked the real timeline. Piers said the insider's notes shattered everything. The dates didn't line up, public appearances didn't fit the supposed trimesters, and one hospital story? He claimed she wasn't even there when she said she was. Imagine that photographs placing her miles away while the official story had her giving birth in serene secrecy.
Paps and journalists and media were following him all day, every day. The unraveling happened that week when he wouldn't pick up my call.
Piers shakes his head dramatically, letting the audience gasp. Twitter goes up in flames. Meghan supporters scream, "Fabrication!" But Piers, he smells blood. He slams the papers on the desk like a judge delivering a sentence. "I'm sick of being told to accept whatever version of events Meghan Markle invents," he roars. He insists she weaponized her pregnancy, that she used motherhood not as a shield, but as a sword, a tool to silence critics, to paint herself as the poor, persecuted duchess, crushed by palace cruelty. He waves another sheet of paper for effect. "This isn't the story of a woman tormented by the palace," he says coldly. "It's the story of a palace tormented by a woman who never met a spotlight she couldn't choreograph." Then comes the next twist. Piers reads what he calls the PROOFS staff memos supposedly contradicting Meghan's public sob stories. He reads aloud, "Aides were instructed to meet every request immediately, no matter how inconvenient." Another, "Multiple staff worked double shifts to fulfill unscheduled wardrobe demands." Another, "She declined certain meetings but later claimed exclusion." He pauses, relishing every line like gospel. "This," he declares, "is the opposite of oppression." And then the mic drop moment. He leans forward, voice sharp and cutting. She didn't want privacy. She wanted production control. Love him or hate him, you have to admit, Piers knows how to command a room. He builds tension like a maestro conducting chaos, slapping the table, lowering his voice into that deadly whisper. It wasn't a baby story, he says. It was a brand story, but the fireworks were just beginning. He claimed this new evidence didn't just expose inconsistencies, it revealed motive, that Meghan's greatest weapon wasn't charm or victimhood, it was emotional leverage. He pointed back to the Oprah interview. Notice, he said, how every accusation of cruelty perfectly matched the emotional climax of a TV drama. How every tear came on cue. Every pause timed like an actress hitting her mark, the studio murmured. Viewers leaned forward. You could almost hear glasses clinking in living rooms as people whispered, "Did he just say that?" Piers wasn't done. These documents, he continued, paint a picture of a woman scripting her own life in real time, someone who bends truth to fit the story she once told. Then came the line that would echo across the internet. She wasn't asking for empathy, she was manufacturing it. That's when the chaos truly erupted. Social media split in half, her fans screaming misogyny, her critics shouting vindication. And Piers, he sat there like a man who just won a war, confident, smirking, daring her to speak. But Meghan didn't. Not a tweet, not a statement, not even a staged paparazzi stroll. Silence. And Piers, oh, he knew exactly what to do with that silence. On his next broadcast, he leaned back with that smug little smile. No denial, he said. No correction, no lawsuit, nothing. He tapped the fictional documents on his desk. Interesting, isn't it? The woman who sues over a children's book review suddenly has nothing to say about this. He let that silence hang in the air, 1 beat, 2 beats, pure theater. Almost, he whispered, like she doesn't want Discovery revealing what really went on. The audience gasped again. That's Piers, he knows how to bait the world. And he knows Meghan's biggest weakness, her obsession with narrative control. The second she stays quiet, the crowd interprets it as guilt. Online, the tide started turning. People who once defended her started hesitating. Strange, some said. Something feels off. Even her Hollywood allies, the ones who'd once filled timelines with "We stand with Meghan," suddenly went dark. No tweets, no podcast mentions, no heartfelt essays, just silence. And Piers, he could smell momentum. Like a bloodhound in a palace corridor, he pressed harder. Every episode, another layer peeled back. He replayed clips of Meghan talking about extreme morning sickness, then played footage of her smiling at public events the same day. He juxtaposed her alone and unsupported stories with staff memos showing 3 aides assigned to her daily schedule. He froze the frame during her Oprah interview, that single glint of light on her face, and said, "You can see the rehearsal in her eyes." He leaned forward, voice trembling with faux empathy. "This isn't authenticity," he said. "This is performance," and people couldn't look away. Love or loathe him, Piers Morgan had turned this into theater, a one-man royal reckoning. Then came the part that blew the roof off. He held up another page, the so-called insider note. Meghan, he said, allegedly requested multiple versions of her birth story, different drafts to be used for future press. Piers stared into the camera. Who does that? Who pre-writes a birth story unless they plan to control the narrative start to finish? He flipped to another line. She prioritized optics, he said, even in childbirth. He sighed, theatrical, weary, dramatic. This is not a woman oppressed by the palace. This is a woman directing her life like a Hollywood film with storyboards. Within hours, storyboards became the meme of the week. Twitter filled with fake movie posters, the bump saga, executive producer Meghan Markle, and through all of it, Meghan stayed silent. Harry too. That only fueled Piers more. "You can't cry about wanting privacy," he said on yet another broadcast. "Then write a book about how you don't want attention." He laughed bitterly, then pulled up what he called a message log showing Harry giving contradictory orders about how to talk to staff during the pregnancy. "Why the mixed messages?" Piers asked. "Why the secrecy? Unless, and I'm just throwing this out there, the story wasn't consistent because the truth wasn't consistent." Then he dropped the line, the one that made the internet combust. Either she lied to Harry, or they lied together. The clip went viral within minutes. Screenshots, remixes, debates. And suddenly, this wasn't just about a pregnancy, it was about the foundation of their marriage. Partnership in manipulation, he called it, slowly, dramatically, as though the words themselves could end an empire. And just when the palace could have denied everything, they didn't. No statements, no recollections may vary. Just pure, echoing silence. That silence was the loudest sound of all, because when the royal family doesn't deny something, the world assumes it's true. Commentators clashed. TikTok detectives pulled every clip Meghan ever filmed, and the internet became an arena of theories. But at the center of it, unflinching, unbothered, sat Piers Morgan, basking in the storm he'd created. "This isn't about gossip anymore," he declared. "This is about honesty, about truth, about whether the public has a right to question a fairy tale that doesn't add up." And then, as if aiming straight for history, he delivered the final, cold line. If she lied about this, what didn't she lie about? The words hit like a hammer. The once unshakable image of Meghan Markle, the symbol of strength, suffering, and survival, suddenly cracked. Not from palace pressure or tabloids, but from something deeper, a story that stopped making sense. And Piers? He smiled knowingly, lowering his voice for the finale. "If this is the beginning of the end of Meghan Markle's credibility," he said softly, "she has only one person to blame." He leaned closer, the camera zooming in herself. The lights faded. The room fell silent. And just like that, the credits rolled on another chapter of royal chaos. And just when everyone thought the storm had passed, that maybe, finally, the noise would fade, Piers did what only Piers could do. He reignited it. A week later, he returned to his show with a look that said he wasn't finished. The air felt heavier, the crowd quieter. "You see," he began, "truth doesn't vanish just because the palace chooses silence." He tapped his desk, slow and deliberate. "It lingers, it festers, it demands to be answered." He replayed clips from Meghan's old interviews, pausing on every emotional close-up. "Watch the eyes," he said softly. "That's not grief, that's calculation." His audience leaned in. Every pause, every tremble, every well-timed tear suddenly looked staged. And Piers, sensing the shift, smiled like a man who knew he'd won the room. "This," he said, "is what happens when a story built on sympathy starts collapsing under scrutiny." The crowd erupted. Online. Hashtags flared again. Old fans turned skeptics, and the same people who once called Meghan a symbol of modern royalty now whispered the one word she feared most: fraud. And through it all, Piers Morgan sat there, chin raised, smirk unwavering, whispering one last time: lights, camera, contradiction.